Hi, this is Gary Sargent. I'm from Woodbury, Connecticut, antique dealer for about 48 years, and I'm here with Leigh Keno. And how you doing, Leigh?
Great you're here, old friend.
And we have some things to show you today.
You sure do.
Okay. So
He got some things.
So one of the first things that we have is a pair of Thomas Abbott bronze birds that are candlesticks, and they're weighted, and they were made circa 1830. And there were a number of them that just recently sold at the Mario Bowata sale for quite a bit of money.
Yeah, that's
quite
right.
A bit of money. They were bringing a fair amount for a while, and now they're bringing quite a bit.
Yeah, they sold at the Prince of Chintz, right?
Prince of Chintz, yeah.
Chintz. I always said that wrong. But these are actually, the thing about these, Gary, that I love is that they're early Victorian, right?
Right, or William IV. Right,
William IV, just
period.
Before
10 years before Victoria.
Yeah, and because you never think 1830 unless you think cutting edge London, England, and that's what these are.
Yeah.
And you said that they're signed.
The chasing and the quality is just so beautiful in the bases, especially when you look at some of the shells, etc., on the bases. But the undersides are usually stamped Abbott.
Right there.
The weighted
B-O-T.
Right.
And the nuts original.
Correct.
And out of let's say not perfect, which I love because it shows it's
offset.
Offset.
Yeah.
And made in Birmingham, probably, right?
Probably. I think he also worked in the London area. So
right in London. Of course, there would have been foundries there.
Yeah.
Well, how delicate the neck is.
There was also another model that had a double branch, which we have.
Okay.
And sometimes they were completely gilded. This is partial gilded, so this is a patinated body with embellishments on the leaves and the bases.
All about contrast, right?
Right. Yeah, it's all about that.
Well, these are pretty.
But they're exotic. They're sort of work off of that Brighton Pavilion concept.
Oops. That's the second time I've done that.
Yeah.
So say that again. I'm sorry.
Sort of the Brighton Pavilion concept, which was, exotic, otherworldly. Yeah. And there's a whole palace, basically, that has exotic examples of this type of decoration.
From the 1830s.
Right,
and
correct.
I want to show that mark. As you say, cast, right? Into the iron.
Cast iron, and then stamped.
And then the chasing.
Beautiful chasing, little shells.
Beautiful.
And if you look very carefully, you see some shells in here, and some sand and rocks.
Yeah, it's
beautiful.
Really, really nice. Really nice.
And some are done better than others. The castings, of course, after they had done a number of castings, you would get probably lesser quality.
Right.
And these are an earlier pair because the castings are so beautifully intact.
And the chasing is so nice.
Yes.
On the brass, right? That's all hand finished after the casting.
That's correct. Yeah.
I love them. I love of course, the king's crown.
The coronets, right?
Coronets,
yeah.
Right.
Sure. These are a pair of 1770s, Adam period, creamware candlesticks with Corinthian capitals, stop-fluted columns, and neoclassic bases with ram's heads. And there's a slight glaze, almost like a blue-green glaze on them. And the bobèches, which is pretty unusual, are original.
Yeah.
And it's the first pair, the finest pair that I've owned. I collect creamware. And so these should be in my collection, but I'm putting them up for sale.
They're incredible.
But they were sold by Earl Vandecar in New York.
Oh, here's the
stamp right here.
A great dealer.
And in mint condition. Candlesticks from this period in creamware in perfect condition are literally unheard of.
Yeah. And so when you mentioned the yellow glaze, I know that's how you identified creamware versus the later pearlware, right? With the blue glaze, right?
Yeah.
So these are probably, 1770s?
That's correct.
Right, up to 80 or something?
Yeah, that Hepplewhite period.
Yep.
Just about the time. It was the center period for Robert Adam when he worked with Thomas Chippendale between 1770 and 1780.
Right. You want to come? We'll come a little closer and show the detail. Come on.
You can see the ram's heads here, and there's a little bit of a blue glaze that's laid over top of the the clay.
Yep.
And it's not really clay; it's actually a type of porcelain.
Porcelain, right?
And beautifully molded underneath.
A little factory mark and
There you go.
underglaze,
Yeah.
right? And this is a natural. I love this
Expansion
fissure.
hole.
Expansion hole. I was going to say fissure, but the fissure next to it from expansion, and not a crack, down in here because it's glaze over it.
Because the air would sort of fill the space, and in firing it would actually break.
Right.
In the kiln.
Right. Here's one in here. That I love things like that are in the making.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
That fissure, and the fact that these have survived with it.
It's amazing.
I mean,
it's really amazing.
That's a nice pair.
So there you go.
Really rare. Thanks for having these. It's an honor to have these in the show.
Different.
Yeah, it's different. It's absolutely.
This is from the Chinese Republic. It's it's actually silver gilt, and then there's the foundation underneath is a hard stone.
Really?
And this was the type of thing that was exported from the Chinese Republic for the general market in Europe and in the United States. But the fact that it's in such great condition, it has all its original enameling.
Yes.
And I've never seen this form before, with the bird as a handle.
Beautiful bird.
Yeah.
It's like jewelry.
Yeah, it's like jewelry.
And this is called is this called filigree work,
Yeah, it's filigree work, or
enamel. Some enamel on the
It's a little enamel on the eyes and some of the decoration.
Right. It's really, really wonderful.
It's unique. And
they,
of course, they did pagodas.
Yep.
They did other types of forms. Some of the canisters are sort of building shaped or column shaped or whatever. But I've never seen this form before.
Yes, peacock.
Peacock.
With wings.
Right. Or a phoenix bird, I guess you could call
that's
it
right.
a phoenix.
Yeah. I was looking at this from the side. It's kind of it's a fantasy bird in a way, right?
Sure, absolutely.
Typical of the China imagery.
But it's something I thought that would be unusual to show because we don't often see this type of thing.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And the hard stone is very cool. It's
it's
probably
almost like jade.
Yeah,
it's like a type of jade, but I'm not certain.
We could check that.
Yeah,
later. Just scratch it with metal, and it won't scratch if it's jade.
Yeah,
and if it isn't jade, we will have made a mark on your antique, and you'll say, Keno, you break it, you bought it.
That's right.
It's yours. You made the mark. Anyway, I can see us arguing over that one. But anyway, that lovely thing.
Yeah.
Really.
It's quite nice.
Where'd you find it?
Believe it or not, I can't remember where we bought this. Where did we buy this? Oh, this came from Portugal. That's right.
Portugal.
Sale. Yeah.
Wow. But the fact that it's made to look like gold, but it's over silver, and you can see the silver coming through on that base right there.
Right.
It's right.
So it's a gold wash on silver.
Yeah, and it has a stamp. That stamp right here. It says Paul Revere, silver smile. You never knew he did that stuff. Right. No, but no, seriously, I can almost read the mark.
$2.
Yeah, right. No, nonetheless, I mean that's the thing. You could get it. It could say this was made for the Imperial Qianlong Emperor. No, I'm kidding. But you've had things. Chiang Kai-shek. That emperor. Thanks, Gary. That's cool.
Pleasure. Andrew Wyeth. This was painted when he was 22 years old. His father thought that he was an incredible genius in watercolors and stated so. This was given as a present by Andy to friends of his who were antique sort of buddies.
Right.
And they would go antiquing. And this was given in 1949 or 1950 to the family in Litchfield.
To a private family.
Private family in Litchfield, yeah, and that's how we got the painting.
Wow.
It's a painting that is called The Wreck. And at the time when this was painted, it was never recorded except for the title. And then it was faked. And the fake painting was at Winter Tour on exhibit, and is actually one of those paintings that was where somebody had actually bought the painting. And the FBI did a sting on them.
Wow.
Asked Andy if, in fact, the painting was his, and of course he said no. The painting that I had of the wreck was the one that I had given as a present to this family in Litchfield.
And it was
So here it is.
It was the same family that you bought it from.
Yeah, yeah.
So are we seeing it basically for the first time in many years, the real thing?
Yeah, this hasn't been on the market basically.
Wow.
And the fact that it's, so it's directly from the family.
He's 22 years old. He's doing watercolors in Maine of this wonderful masted ship. I love how impressionist it is. How not impressionist, but it's not specific. It's wonderful.
It has a flow to it, I think.
Exactly.
He let a lot of the paint actually flow. You can see how he's used the water to create some movement in his images.
Yes.
And this boat is in Maine still.
In the museum?
No, it's still where it was pictured.
In the water?
In the water, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, Donut Point in Maine.
Wow.
And
and it's signed down here. But
signed longhand,
And what's the back look like?
Well, the back, we've actually left an exhibit stamp on the back where it was exhibited.
The schooner Peaceland run aground off Donut Point. I didn't even know that was a Donut Point, Maine.
Absolutely.
There's some wonderful places up there. May 27th, 1938. That's so cool. I mean, this is so. I mean, I'm missing Wyeth, the fake one on exhibit recently. I went to you said. I read about that thing. I read something about that. And I never knew that. Here we're holding the real one, and Wyeths are so hard to find. Wyeths that haven't been in the market.
Well, the early ones I don't see as much.
Yeah.
You see a lot of the egg temperas, but the watercolors I think are sort of his trademark in so many different ways. I mean, it was how he started his life, basically in watercolors.
And this would be years before he even met his wife, right, Mrs. Wyeth, and before he did the famous painting
Betsy.
Yeah, that was 6 or 7 years later.
Sure.
Yeah, that famous work. I mean, this is amazing, and the size. It's a very big.
It's good size for this period. It's the proper size. Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Of course, we framed it.
Nice job.
It came to us in a frame that was just a little bit anemic.
Wow. Well, we're honored to have it. Honored to have it in the show.
Yeah.
Really honored.
A sporting painting.
Right.
Obviously, a carriage scene depicting horses and a carriage with a boy, which would be used as a driver of the carriage.
That's wild.
And it was painted around 1750.
Right.
We recently purchased this from a private estate in Fairfield, Connecticut.
Okay.
And anyway, he's very, very similar to an artist in Ireland who did the same type of work, and Daniel Quigley, who is highly regarded. Of course, Butler is highly regarded as well.
Right. Well,
Butler was a British painter.
Right.
He had a print shop, believe it or not, and did a lot of paintings of horses for people when they were very, very popular. Right. They wanted
a portrait.
They wanted portraits if they couldn't afford something from, say, one of the master painters like
Stubbs,
George Stubbs or whatever.
George's son.
They would employ Thomas to do the work.
Well,
his work is still highly regarded. It's done in the manner of Sartorius.
Right.
You see the elongated horses.
Yes.
The sort of leaping horses. This is typical of that
stylized,
period. Stylized,
right. Which gives them an attractive look. I mean, sometimes a horse like this is sometimes more interesting to me is from even though he's not a folk artist, certainly, but I like the simplicity of the line. It's like a stylized line that kind of makes it pop. You know, it's not, rather than if they were realistic horses, you know what I mean?
And it takes you back to a time, too, I think, that was sort of a bit exotic and interesting. The thing about sporting art, it was very personal. Of course, if you were a wealthy person, you wanted to have your horses pictured.
Of course. Yeah.
You wanted to have your teams pictured.
Right. So,
and of course, there's a whole story about this at the bottom.
The carriage was drawn by the undermentioned horses for 1,000 guineas.
Performed on Newmarket Heath on the 29th of August, 1750.
Wow. In 53 minutes and 27 seconds. Look at that.
The horses were bred and trained for running the
right.
2 leaders, including riders, saddles, and harnesses. Carried about 8 stone.
The wheel.
The wheel horse is about 7 stone each. The carriage with a boy on it weighed about 24 stone.
All stuff his guests would have loved to know. I'm kidding.
It's amazing, yeah. So,
but great above your fireplace.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. It has a wonderful country estate look to it, and it's graphic. Every time you walk by this painting, it makes me smile.
Yeah,
I can't help it, but it brings me back to a time that's sort of reminiscent of the 18th century, and also of today, because there's still horseback ride, and this is something that kept going on for forever.
But what I don't get is, like, unless this guy's being punished, that looks like the most uncomfortable. You know, I mean, maybe that's the joke here, and he's writing literally on a log. You know, and like
talk about child abuse.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Exactly.
That's not a luxurious carriage. Doesn't, you know.
I don't think that would fly today.
That wouldn't fly today. You're right. It looks like 15 or something. Look at that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that there's a story there that we don't know yet. But,
there is,
you know,
and it's of course pictured in this book on racing art.
Yes.
By Graham Budd.
It's wonderful that it is illustrated right here in the book. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the same one.
Right next to George Stubbs. So.
yeah, I'd rather have this. I think this has. I mean, you know, this has.
Sure.
This really does have more atmosphere.
Has character. I think.
Yep. Contrast.
Yeah, and the scale of it is nice because oftentimes the paintings from this period are a little bit smaller.
Yeah.
The Sartorius were usually like 18 by 24.
Right.
This 5-footer is pretty amazing.
This Stubbs is less than 3 feet.
Correct.
By 43 inches, tiny.
Sure. But this is also a recording of an event.
Right.
Just like you would have, like maybe a sporting event and sailing.
Right.
Or a yachting event would be documented the same way. So here you go. This is a unique opportunity for somebody to buy something rare, which doesn't come down the pike that often.
I'll tell you one thing. In a lot of rooms, I can imagine it being, but above a great fireplace, can you imagine that? It would hold a wall.
Absolutely.
I mean,
an English country house. This is exactly what you would see.
Yes, that's right. Or a Connecticut house.
Connecticut house. It has the same feeling.
Massachusetts house.
Yeah.
One thing I noticed is that it has its original stretchers back there.
Correct. Yeah.
And that is so cool. I love original stretchers, and you want to look at the.
And we've blacklighted it, and there's some minor repairs, but nothing major.
But we'll switch ends. Okay, yeah, that's good. That's the best idea.
Here.
Switch sides, and here you can see the. Let's see. We'll get this. Do you mind if we get this in the light here, and maybe we'll.
Can you see over here?
Yeah,
maybe
that's
see a
the
little
best.
bit better here.
That's where the light is. But
good oxidation to the frame.
That's nice.
The corner expanders.
Yeah, with probably spruce or red pine.
Right.
I know it's not white pine. It's not spruce or red pine typically, right? For the English, and if it were American, it'd be white pine.
Right.
Really nice, with like you said, with early paper there. Look at that. And it's been relined and then mounted. Let's see. No, there's no board there. It's just very tightly
rewound.
Yeah. Yeah, really, very cool. A very nice Adamesque, right? Fireplace mantle.
You do it that way, right?
Yeah, and these capitals are literally ram's head and swag capitals, right?
Yeah.
And made of the composite, right? I think, or do you think those are wood?
They're compo, I believe.
Compo,
yeah, they peel like compo.
Yep. And compo saved. I bet you it didn't put carvers out of business, but it did take a lot of work with the compo away from carvers. Don't you think?
A lot of the plastering that was done in the interiors were all forced plastered. In other words, they were molded and then stuck in place, and it was a lot faster than sitting there carving.
Right, or paying a lot cheaper.
A lot cheaper. Of course, they had the same idea to use, artisans in a quick way, because they had to pay them by the hour, of course.
Of course.
So.
Right.
Or by the job. The more they got out, the more they got in return.
Right.
This is called George, I would say George 1, George 2, gesso carved table, side table. This particular piece was in a home by the name of Segrist, and it belonged to, well, it didn't belong, but it was in a place where the
Duke and
Duchess of Windsor,
right.
summered or wintered, I should say, in the Bahamas.
Ah.
So this has that provenance.
I think Bahamas, I don't think of totally high style, great, Georgian furniture. But of course, when you think it's of who it is,
right?
The Duke and Duchess of Windsor, you expect it. I think I saw some picture of that house down there, and it was just unbelievably elegant. That right?
Well, yeah.
And the house in the Bahamas.
And also in Jamaica, there's a couple of homes that have the original 18th century furnishings and fabrics, etc. I think even
still,
yeah, correct, yeah.
That's
what's nice about this is it has all of its original apron shaping.
It's amazing.
Legs are intact, which they haven't been broken and the gilding is probably the original. Gilding.
That's amazing. I mean,
you can see some of the bowl coming through here. That's the foundation for gold.
Yes.
It's water gilded, and it's laid on a bowl foundation, and underneath that is a gesso.
Right. So you see all three.
That's correct. Yep. And this was carved out of the gesso. So in other words,
this is amazing.
And punch worked as well. There were little tools, fine little tools, that would make these little tiny impressions.
This is about as good as it gets for George 1, George 2.
That's
to me.
right.
I mean, I saw you bring this in today. You saw me. I said, oh my God. I said, I don't want to talk to you about it, Gary, until we get on camera because I'm so excited.
Right.
I don't want to.
Right.
I just want to capture this is my first look at the top of it. You know this.
Yeah.
I mean.
But the best part, you have to see the underside.
That's true. That's true.
You have to see the underside of this because it's so nice and clean.
Ooh, nice.
Look at that.
Well, wow. Now something like this, you only have to look at us who
couple of seconds,
furniture,
right?
Couple seconds. Yep. Everything's reads right. Isn't this great? And never
it's a beautiful thing.
Never been off. I mean, I don't think. I mean,
no.
this top. I mean, they would have. Did they add that?
These battens might have been added, but this block here.
This is pretty early.
Yeah.
I think this is original. And these usually come off because of the shrinkage, and they'll either stay with the top, this part or this part, right?
Right.
They're glued to both.
Yeah.
And we're talking about this piece of wood right here. But the way this looks and everything, this looks absolutely right. That would have been added in the 19th century, right, Gary?
Right. But the color underneath and the secondary. In other words, there's two pieces of wood and they're chiseled together, so you can see this conformation of the carving that comes on the underside that relieves the apron.
Yes, I see that right here. I see a seam, right?
Right.
The seam, so to laminated, so that they wouldn't have to literally waste a huge chunk of wood, right?
And they could also get that a lot more movement in the apron. They can get more development out of the apron.
More swell.
Sure.
And the scalloping is extra accentuated on this. It has a few more dip curves.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Than I've seen, and looking at hundreds of them.
Yeah.
And you're one of the top experts in English furniture in the country, Gary.
And I love the feet on this because it has these sort of stockinged carved feet.
Yes.
With these leaf carvings.
They're over the top.
And the one thing about this period, whoops, we're losing some gesso. The one thing about this period is that you have to have these negative feels. If everything was completely carved throughout,
yes,
this negative
for contrast
and the leg for contrast is a nice transition into a carved foot again.
Absolutely. I mean, it's actually because you have punch work in the background behind all this acanthus sleeve.
That's right.
Coming up, and as you say, it's all up to here, and then this is a smooth part, but then it starts again, and this acanthus sleeve coming down here scrolls with ruffles.
It has a sumptuous feeling to it. It gives you a feeling of elegance and beauty. Of course, it's the line of beauty. We're talking about the cabriole leg.
William Hogarth's
Yes curve.
1754.
William Hogarth, yeah.
The analysis of beauty, right?
That's right.
This is the epitome, the perfect S curve based on the curve in a lady's back.
That's
really.
right.
Not a guy's back. We've got no curve, I think, but the smaller her back. And he even illustrated a chair leg and a corset.
Right.
In the book in 1754.
Which translates into the Chippendale period, and of course it's the beginning of that whole 18th century
organic
movement, Rococo moving elements.
Right. I told my son he's got lots of muscles and a small waist, but he's got one shoulder that's bigger and it bothers him. I said, Brandon, nature's beautiful. Nature's not perfect. It's okay to have a shoulder that's bigger than if it bugs him. And I said, look at me. Look at me. I smile. This one goes up and this one stays. That's nature. But nature is beautiful. I mean, this is beautiful. This is just before, tell me if I'm wrong, because you're the expert.
Right.
Before the Rococo came in, it was more contained.
Absolutely.
So you had the leafage, you had the naturalistic, the leaves, you had the bellflowers, but within, it was, what's the word, compartmentalized somewhat.
Yes.
But in a beautiful, beautiful way. To me, this is one of the greatest tables. I've looked at in catalogs and,
Sure.
And I know you own it, so it's easy for you to say. I don't own it. I'm telling you, really objectively,
it's an amazing table, and the history on it is equally as good as the table.
Just the Duke and Duchess of Windsor.
And it has this squared off, quartered top. In other words, the design of the top is quartered, so everything's starting from the center, and it's a repeat in each corner. And the strap work here is consistent with the leaf carving.
It's just amazing.
And then we have these notched corners.
The notched corners are
really
fabulous.
Nice. It just relieves the weight of the top.
But they decided to have a wall table, and to me that's
right. You can turn it around and show the back side of this.
To me, that's rather than being, let's say, okay, not wanting to spend the money. I think that is a sign of extravagance because they could actually afford to order a table this ornate and say, okay, we just need this one for the sidewall.
Do you see a replacement here?
There you go. Return, right? Yeah. So one, and it screams out at us because
there you go.
Yeah, one replacement, and the nice thing about you, Gary, is that even if this had issues, and this is a tiny issue, the tiniest, you stand by and guarantee everything that you've sold over what, 40 years?
48 years, yeah.
Since you were 7
I was a
or
little
8.
Guy.
Yeah. So, but seriously, just like. I look at this back here. I mean,
beautiful.
It literally, I see what you're saying. This is the original Golding.
Yes.
I mean, it really hasn't been messed with.
It hasn't been messed with.
And how often does that happen with these tables?
Rarely with gilded furniture.
Right. People just couldn't resist touching them and making them shinier. And that's beautiful.
Well, this when it was made was meant to be very shiny.
Yeah.
Of course, over the course of time, you get the patina, which is integral with the value, I think, of the piece.
It shows the life is lived, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, it's
the character of the piece.
Right.
It's come through 3 centuries of use.
And some of these dings were made by the Duke and the Duchess probably when they put down a martini glass at one night. Who knows, but
I don't think they spilled anything on this.
You don't think?
Yeah.
No. You're probably right. You're probably right. But I'll tell you, I'm going to put it back the other way if we can. This is mind blowing, Gary. And I love it. Being an American furniture lover as well, I really appreciate it because I see tables, of course, in Boston and Philadelphia.
Well, what if this was American?
Oh, if it were American,
it'd be the rarest of tables.
Be the rarest of tables. The only thing I could think of is there's a slightly later Rococo slab table that went against the wall.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
I ended up buying a couple of years ago for a client. And long story short, though, you couldn't put it next to this. Although it's beautiful, it's just compared to the heights.
That was a mahogany table.
That was mahogany with a marble top. Whole different thing. But this is just over the top. Just like you couldn't compare a French weapon carved and detailed with an American Kentucky rifle.
Right.
It's so ornate and fancy. It's in its own category. Like
Right,
this.
right.
This is just on a pedestal by itself.
Can't beat it.
I mean, how long have you owned it?
Not too long.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, aren't you lucky? You
About
just
a year.
got
I
it.
put it away.
Wow.
We put it away.
Well, I'm truly, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, Gary. I'm honored. I'm gonna start crying now. This is perfect.
Don't cry.
But I'm honored that you chose to bring it out here.
This is a Thomas Hope design.
Yes.
It's on casters. Of course, if on a hardwood floor,
Well, right.
you would probably move this around and you would put your bottles inside,
So it's
complete
wow.
with dividers.
Just
And
wow. A high-end beer fridge.
yeah,
Except for that it's bottles of Margaux that were in there, right?
champagne or wine or whatever.
But it's nice that it's fitted for the Madeira or
Yes.
bottles, and inside we'll get a shot of it. I don't know if
Beautifully
it's
constructed. Even
beautiful.
the liner in here is incised.
It's gorgeous.
And
I
the
mean,
brass inlay is all original.
it just
on this
screams
hood.
quality. It screams
Yeah.
quality.
This is all brass inlaid here
Wow,
with
this-
ebony.
Kind of a wave motif.
Yeah.
Wow. And then another band underneath.
Correct. And then, of course, mirrored on the bottom,
Yep.
on the apron.
Yep.
And then all the
Yes.
mounts are original, the anthemia.
And that is wonderful.
And then we have the lion handles on the sides, which are typical
this
of
is,
Thomas Hope.
Yes, they are. This is classic Thomas Hope, right?
Right.
And really nice. And look at, there's no mark because the ring, I always check, but this ring never was able
That had
to
a
touch.
stop to it.
Yeah, exactly.
And this has part of the gold, the gold
The
cover,
fire gilding?
that was,
Yes.
we haven't touched it. All we did basically was wax this.
Wow. Where did you, may
It
I
came
ask-
from a collection in California. It was
Wow.
sold by Jeremy in London.
Oh, huge
And
dealers, right?
huge dealers. They're out of business now.
Right.
I think they closed about 10 years ago,
Right.
8 years ago.
Yeah.
And the
yeah.
underside, when you lift this,
Mhm.
you can see that it has casters.
Let me see. I'm going to put it on my knee
Right.
like that. Oh, look at
The
those.
wheels are all original.
Wow. That is something. So this is about 1800,
About 1800.
right there. And the British were very ahead of their time with casters.
Correct.
If I saw these on an American piece, I'd say 1815 or 20.
Right.
But they're 1800, absolutely right. The way that they're made.
Right. Now, Chippendale made a caster with another wheel inside the frame here so that it would actually rotate on a metal frame.
Ah, I've seen
And
that.
that's almost like a signature for his work.
For Chippendale. But this
Yes.
is Thomas Hope.
Right.
And look at the color here. I just want to mention
Beautiful
that.
color.
God, it's just the oxidized wood, the separation from shrinkage, and these boxes which hide these kind of secret wheels. I mean, you never
You
dream
wouldn't
that
see it.
Yeah, it just floats. I mean, like, and the interesting thing is these look like they've never touched. These have never touched,
Never touched the ground.
because they've always been suspended just by about an eighth of an inch. It
That's
looks
right.
like, by casters.
And the patination on these realistic paw feet are beautiful, aren't they?
It's fabulous. Are they actually ebonized, do you think? And then
Ebonized, yeah, there's a little bit of ebony in there.
yeah, and maybe over the surface, right? And then
Sure,
it looks
and then
like
waxed, of
and then
course.
waxed, and just worn off from polishing, from the cleaning, the maids.
Once again, patina.
A
Color, patina. It's all the things that you want to buy when you're buying a great piece of furniture.
100%, 100%, and the fact that, let's spin it around. Not only three sides.
It's condition.
Condition and first of all, integrity in the piece, because all four sides are finished. And this wood, you were telling me earlier, is Sabuca, right?
And then you have sabaku, and then
Oh,
of course,
sorry. No,
and of course, these hinges have stops on them, so they would even hold the weight of this very heavy top. Once you opened it up, it sits.
So that
like
couldn't
that.
be. That's why they're not ripped out.
That's why they're not ripped out.
Somebody was really thinking. I mean, that's amazing. They're actually cast like that.
That's right.
That's
Well, you see these on tea caddies.
Yep.
The finest tea caddies, but to have them on something this large and have them so intact, I think is unique.
And you want to talk about the wood a bit, just briefly?
Sabaku was used as a shipbuilding wood.
Yep.
And was used as furniture. Used in furniture. It comes from Haiti, the Bahamas, Cuba,
Yep.
and believe it or not, some species in Florida. There's 2 species of Sabaku.
They just didn't use much of the Florida wood for furniture,
Right.
but they did do it, make it in the islands, cut it, right?
They did, yeah.
It looks like a cousin of mahogany with this highly figured kind of curl.
Well, it almost has an iridescence to it. It's almost like it's quartered.
Yeah,
But it's not
actually
quartered.
right.
It's the way the flitches would come out when you, a flitch is a thin piece of veneer.
Right.
That's laid on a harder wood, a harder frame.
Which this is, right? Because
Right.
they never have this solid, right? You have
Right.
veneer as they have been doing since the 1500s or before that. The
Right.
1400s. They thin slices of veneer on softwood, right? But every surface is veneered, probably even
But
this.
in this case, they did it on a hardwood.
Yes, on a hardwood,
So
that's
that's
right.
why you're not seeing a lot of splitting.
Exactly, you'd see
There's
this
no
all
shrinkage.
because they split at different rates, right?
Correct.
In different directions. I mean, this thing is
It's made
so
by a
great.
master.
Made by a master. Thomas Hope is one of the greats.
One of the greats. This very unusual. Now, Lee, you know, what's the height, generally speaking, for a tea table?
I'm not
27, 28?
just about, yeah,
This is
27.
31 inches tall.
Wow, yeah.
And this has a tray to the top of it, single board top.
It-
So it is basically designed like a tea table, except,
Yes.
have you ever seen slides forward like that?
My
I've
gosh.
never seen them before.
Never,
like-
never.
And it's a side table. So the back is not finished.
My gosh, they're not centered. The pockets for the sticks.
So
That's
this was
amazing.
either for serving water or coffee.
May I turn it this way just to
Yeah.
show everybody?
Could be water or coffee.
So wonderfully carved into this this was it oak. I think
Oak.
probably.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
with the
And these are original.
Original little Birmingham knob. You could order these in like big to tiny.
That's right.
And I've never seen one off center. Usually they
No,
just put it in the center.
Exactly.
So what's it's because I'm
Well, the height of it, I think, first of all,
Yes.
was a serving table.
right, I got it. A serving table, and also if it's over here and it's a candlestick, it's too close to the wall, it might
Correct.
start a fire. The candle tips over without
Right.
the stick, right? And it starts a fire.
Well, I don't know whether these were they might have been for candles,
Yep.
but they also could have been used for cups
That's probably more likely, right?
or bowls. If
or
you were
tea
doing a
cup.
hot water urn or something like
Yep.
that on
Yep.
top, which would sit,
Yes.
you could pour on both sides.
Or if you had a lot of cups and saucers,
Right.
you put and put the pot here.
And then, of course, it has a single drawer.
Wow. Yes, let's take it out if you don't mind, because I want to. And
Original
immediately.
hardware on it.
Oh, original. Actually, the hardware gives away the age,
Period.
the
Yeah.
period. If the legs don't, that Queen
Right.
Anne, or I should say, kind of George the
Sure.
First, Queen Anne, simple type of pole. I say simple with wonderful engraving on it, right?
Yeah, it's all engraved.
The original fire gilding
That's right.
on that brass. Oh my gosh, that's
That's
talk
neat,
about
isn't it?
condition. I mean, that's literally untouched. And the original. I mean,
I'm not even so certain it's ever been off this piece.
I'm just going to say that. Did this come from an estate also? Or from
No, we got this from believe it or not, an auction.
Wow.
And I was
Absolutely.
surprised to see it because
Absolutely
I've never seen it. And look at the
wonderful.
corners. I've never seen this before.
Nope. They wanted,
They're undercut. They're
yeah.
sort of like a lamb's tongue at the
Yeah.
top.
and then they
And then you have this little diamond shape at the end.
never seen that. Just on some Irish type
Correct.
tables, which this is not. you
And
know.
then this scrolled pattern on the returns.
That's a wild kind of yellow brick road.
And all we did was really wax the legs.
Right.
It has the original surface underneath, original
absolutely.
color, and the
It-
density. Lee, pick this up.
Yeah, it's probably a really dense mahogany, and I was going to say while the drawer's open, can I just say that the sides,
Yes.
of course,
Thin.
you know, on an American piece they'd be another 1/8 of an inch thicker, right? 'Cause we didn't have the abilities here to cut, and they'd
Right.
be white pine or some softwood instead of oak. But I'm going to do it like this.
Yeah.
Wow.
Has
That
density
is,
to
that
it.
is so, I mean, it's only
Cuban,
because it's only 'cause I'm so strong that I
Yeah.
can do this. No, amazing. I mean, for a
And the
small
center
table.
marks on the feet are all original. You can see actually
Wow.
where the lathe marks, where the center points were done
Yeah,
for the
yes,
lathe.
yes, still there.
And then you still have this carving underneath where it's all chiseled out.
Wonderful. All those things that we like to look for, and the way that these returns, knee
Right,
returns, are
right.
applied here is something you almost never see in America. It's just on a couple.
Right.
pieces
And
in the
no,
South.
not Charleston, but
Charleston,
Williamsburg.
Yep, Williamsburg. And
Peter Scott did
Peter
that.
Scott and Anthony in the hay shop, I think.
That's right.
Yeah, but so because they were so close to English, they just down there did the English model.
Right.
But this is like drop dead amazing, and yeah, like you said, the height of a card table of a gaming table or something, but a serving table.
31.5 inches tall. It's just unusual.
It's amazing. Really, really cool. Probably 17, 15.
It's early.
10?
It's early, 1720 at the latest, I would think,
Yep,
somewhere in there.
10 right.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Just to look at this almost look like ram's horns. When
That's
you look
right.
from here at the way this.
You get this influence too in Philadelphia, right?
Yes, yeah.
In some of the savory, is it not savory? Savory?
No, on this.
No, on this, where they have the
Yeah,
corners.
in Boston, they did a group of chairs in the 1730s.
Sure.
Not with this much scroll.
No, but I'm just talking about this part here.
the lance tongue. They
Yeah.
did it. Boston they used to be called Newport, but they're Boston
Right.
chairs with flat stretchers that have this and have Chinese splats, the
Yeah.
rectangular splats.
Right.
All these early, this period it was
Yeah.
so popular. So cool. Thank you very
I thought
much.
so. I thought it was different.
Congratulations
thanks again.
on another find.